Imagine sitting in the host's chair night after night, smiling for the cameras while inside you're counting the seconds until the credits roll. For more than 20 years, one man has made Friday nights feel like a party in your living room. His laugh is contagious, his timing perfect, and his ability to turn disaster into delight is legendary. But even the warmest host in television has nights he'd rather forget, nights when the magic failed and the smile hurt to hold. At 62, he's finally ready to talk about the 6 guests who pushed him to the edge. The first one still makes him shake his head. It was a Friday in 2013, the studio buzzing, the lineup stacked with talent. A brilliant actor known for dry wit, a fearless comedian who never held back, and then the movie star who arrived already 3 sheets to the wind. He bounded onto the stage like he owned it, voice too loud, grin too wide. At first, everyone thought it was an act. Big energy, big personality. Then he started cutting people off mid-sentence, talking over punchlines, leaning across the couch like personal space didn't exist. The laughter turned nervous. And then, without warning, he stood up, wobbled, and dropped himself straight into the host's lap, arms flung around his neck, slurring something only he thought was hilarious. The audience gasped, then laughed because what else could they do? The host kept smiling, gently guiding him back to his own seat, but you could see it in his eyes. This one was going to leave a bruise. The next morning, the clip was everywhere, half the internet calling it iconic, the other half calling it unbearable. The guest later laughed it off as just a couple of drinks. The host never laughed at all. If that night was wildfire, the next was a desert. An Oscar-winning actor, famously private, sat down and basically switched himself off. Every question got a polite no, D, or a 3-word answer. The host tried everything. Jokes, compliments, stories of his own, nothing landed. At one point, he actually said out loud, "This is hard work tonight," and the audience laughed because they felt exactly the same. The silence stretched so long it had weight. You could almost hear the studio lights humming. Years later, the host said it wasn't anger that drained him that night. It was the sheer effort of trying to keep a conversation alive when the other person had already left the building in their head. Then there was the producer everyone feared long before the world knew why. He didn't stumble or go quiet, he took over. From the second he sat down, he interrupted, talked over everyone, steered every question back to his own greatness. The usual easy banter evaporated. The host's famous warmth cooled by degrees until his smile looked painted on. The audience shifted in their seats. Something felt wrong even if they couldn't name it yet. Years later, when the headlines broke and the monster stood revealed, the host watched the old clip back and felt ice in his stomach. "I didn't know the half of it then," he said quietly, "but I knew enough to feel sick." Some nights the problem was the opposite of loudness, pure absence. One much-loved actor, famous for wild comeback stories, sat hunched and distant, answering in riddles or not at all. The host threw him every possible lifeline, boxing, movies, that infamous wilderness phase, nothing sparked. The pauses grew so heavy, the director later admitted he almost cut to commercial early just to give everyone oxygen. The host kept filling the void with his own voice until he sounded exhausted even to himself. "You can't manufacture electricity," he said afterward. "You can only pray it shows up. If this story is hitting you the way it hits me, these raw human moments behind the glamour, please share it with someone who needs to remember that even the brightest lights cast long shadows." Another evening felt like talking to a statue carved from seriousness. A Hollywood legend, all gravitas and perfect posture, answered every playful jab with the calm precision of a courtroom witness. The couch is supposed to feel like a pub at closing time, loud, messy, alive. This guest made it feel like a library after hours. The host teased him about old roles, begged him to join the chaos. He offered polite smiles and zero chaos in return. By the final segment, the host looked like a man who'd just run a marathon carrying the whole show on his back. And then there's the one that finally cracked even that unbreakable patience. A beloved actress from the 80s and 90s, there to promote a new project, gave literally nothing. One-word answers, no laughter, no follow-up, no eye contact, The host pulled out every trick he'd perfected over decades: self-deprecation, warmth, gentle mischief, stonewalled at every turn. The other guests started throwing him desperate looks. The audience laughter grew thin and forced. For the first time in hundreds of episodes, the host admitted later, he felt real frustration boiling under the surface. "When someone hands you emptiness," he said, "you suddenly see how fragile the whole illusion is. One person checks out and the whole room threatens to collapse." Yet somehow, after every train wreck, the red lights dimmed, the audience went home, and the next Friday the couch was full again. Because for every guest who froze, interrupted, dominated, or disappeared, there have been hundreds who laughed until they cried, told secrets they swore they never would, and turned a simple chat show into something people still talk about years later. Though, so difficult nights didn't break him, they proved why the good ones feel like miracles. Real connection on live television is rare, fragile, and, when it happens, absolutely magic. So here's to the host who kept smiling through the storms, and to every moment, good and bad, that reminded us television can still feel human. If any of these stories stayed with you, do me a favor. Hit that like button, drop your favorite or most painful memory from the couch down in the comments, and share this with someone who loves the beautiful mess that live TV can be. Most of all, subscribe, because next week we're diving into the nights that went perfectly right. You won't want to miss those.